Chiefs at Bills. What a way to close the weekend. This is going to be a classic. I think, RJ said you can see it being a blowout either way, that there's a lot of high variance in this game. I see it being another Chiefs-Bills classic. Patrick Mahomes, 8-1-1 against the number in the 10 times that he's been an underdog. He's never had a playoff game on the road, which is kind of incredible. Mike, you got an official play. Let's hear it.
Kansas City plus 2.5 here for me, Larry. I think the game should be a pick 'em overall. Look, Buffalo's defense has been good at times, especially if you look at overall defensive EPA. I think they are incredibly beat up in this particular matchup. I also like the rest advantage that you have for Kansas City. It's the combination of Buffalo being beat up and the big rest advantage. They played Saturday. Buffalo played Monday. It is a home game for Buffalo, but it is a shorter turnaround with a long week on the Kansas City side. And not only a long week on the Kansas City side, but they've known who they were very, very, very likely to play. It's a familiar matchup, but they've been preparing for this matchup. One that I think is super familiar. So I think Kansas City, while we've had them around 5th in terms of total defense, I think that they are the 3rd best defense in the NFL, maybe the 2nd. By far the best defense Patrick Mahomes has ever had to work with in his career. You continue to watch the guy. He's absolutely incredible with the football in his hands. I think when he plays a guy like Josh Allen, who is mobile and runs, it only leads to Patrick Mahomes running the football more. I think that that's a good thing in this offense. I think it will help spring Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice a little bit more. So I think that Kansas City is going to have success. I think that Pacheco runs hard enough as well that this game ultimately to me comes down to, are we settling for 3 points or 7? Because both of these teams are going to be able to sustain drives and chew clock. So you can't make the turnover, make the mistake. Josh Allen's been a little more prone to doing that. I am terrified of him running all over the Kansas City defense, but I make the game a pick 'em. I think it's going to be an instant classic. And I think Patrick Mahomes is just simply undervalued still, especially in the underdog role.
And before we get to RJ's take on his hometown Bills, and the Chiefs offense somewhat woke up, over 400 yards against Miami. So maybe they're starting to snap out of it. But I got to read some of these Bills defensive injuries, and I don't want to make RJ feel bad. But when you talk about cornerback Christian Benford, linebacker Balin Spector, you got the punter hurt, Sam Martin, Terrell Bernard, Dodson was already out. Connor McGovern, he was in and out, so he's back. Taron Johnson. You also have Rasul Douglas, did not play, but is supposed to be back. So RJ, with that decimated defense, how do you feel about your Bills?
Well, we're not going to have Braylon Spector, so I got to change my complete cap on this game. And if the punter not in this game, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Mikey said something very interesting about field goals versus touchdowns. And the team that's been settling for a lot of field goals lately has been Kansas City. They are struggling to finish drives offensively. 10 field goals made in their last 2 competitive games. Harrison Butker just marching out there to kick 26-yard field goals, 28-yard field goals over and over. Buffalo's defense is banged up. They have played well since the bye, and they've been dealing with injuries all year. So these injuries at linebacker, that hurts them. Might get one of those guys back. I believe one of those 2, Dodson or Bernard, were questionable heading into the game, just like Douglas. So hopefully they'll be able to get him back. So we'll see if Kelce can take advantage of that, although it really looks like Rice is taking over as the number 1 option. Kelce just doesn't look as reliable as he has in the past. So we'll see if Douglas is back to help defend Rice, and if Dodson can also return after also missing his questionable last week. The game may hinge on Kansas City's defense, which is very good, slowing down the Buffalo's offense, which is also very good. Both are 5th in yards per play, but Kansas City is 24th in yards per rush. And we've seen this Buffalo offense really focus on running the ball lately, getting James Cook more involved early in the game. Now we're in playoff mode. We know Josh Allen's going to run around with his legs in this situation and really take advantage of the weakness of Kansas City there. Kansas City's defense also just 28th in interception rate. Josh Allen coming off a game without mental mistakes, the first one probably since I started watching it when he was drafted by the Bills. We'll see if he can have 2 in a row. It's probably not likely, but that was really encouraging and a step forward where he wasn't forcing the ball in situations where he didn't need to. With Buffalo's offense and Kansas City's defense both being first in sack rate, I think whichever side wins the battle there could win a close game. If Chiefs are able to get pressure, get to Allen, set up some big third downs, take away the run game from Buffalo, then they're probably going to go and win this game. But if Buffalo's offense is able to block, and that offensive line, particularly the tackles, have been playing well. Buffalo will be able to execute in the run game, score some touchdowns while Kansas City's kicking field goals, and win the game. So I would give Buffalo 2.5 for home field advantage. So market right now is telling us these teams are even. Mikey obviously believes the Chiefs are much better to make it a pick 'em. I think the Bills are a little bit better. So I think the value here is going to be on the Bills. I think this should be on the other side of 3.
And Josh Allen didn't make any mistakes last game, but that was against the Steelers defense that didn't have TJ Watt, and the game situation put zero pressure on him. So he was able to do that. And the play calling, giving James Cook the rock was very smart. This definitely will be more high leverage, more pressure, and we'll see if he can avoid those turnovers that have killed the Bills in the past. Mikey, what are you thinking about this total of 46?
Yeah, it's fascinating. You mentioned the range of outcomes in this game. I've got the number 46.3, so right at 46. If I had to play something, I would lean under, believe it or not, still. And the reason for that, while the defenses are good, the offenses are extremely good still. When you've got two quarterbacks that are mobile and know how to take advantage of that and can sustain drives and pick up first downs, that clock is going to be moving the entire game here. This, to me, reminds me of one of those games why I talked about field goals versus touchdowns, and then that it may only take one interception on either side to settle the difference in this game. I think the drives, like the number of drives overall, are going to be extremely limited in this game. It reminds me of a Packers-Chiefs game that we saw earlier this year, which is where I think Jordan Love, when he beat Patrick Mahomes doing what Patrick Mahomes does, really turned the corner for him this season. That's what I think this game's going to be. I think it's going to be one where each team may only touch the football once in the first quarter. It might be 7-7 at the end of the first quarter or 7-3, but I think that we're looking at long, sustained drives with the clock moving a lot here. I think the name of the game for really both of these teams and both of these quarterbacks and why they've been so good is just get to the fourth quarter in a one-score game. Give yourself a shot to win, and I think that's what we see here. I think that we don't necessarily see big chunk plays out of either offense, especially if Gabe Davis is going to be out again for Buffalo. We know Kansas City's very unlikely to hit the deep ball because even if they try, Marquez Valdez-Scantling would probably drop the wide-open touchdown pass. So I think it's going to be moving the football down the field. I'll lean under. The computer's right on the number. If I had to play it, though, it would be under.
RJ, any thoughts on the total or any specific player props that jump out at you?
Yeah, I'd also be looking to the under. It feels like a game. We saw that first meeting was 20-17. Feels like it could be a similar game here in that situation. You could also look at the team total unders. I'd be a little more confident in playing the Chiefs with how many field goals they're kicking. But I think the Bills number right now is probably like 24.5. And so if you like Kansas City to cover this at all and win the game, I think under 24.5 is a smash spot for the Bills.
And how about any individual players you have your eye on? Khalil Shakir has been a favorite. James Cook has been a favorite, cashing for people last game. What do you think?
If I'm going to play anyone, it's probably Dalton Kincaid's over. I mean, he's really emerged as like the key guy, even more than Diggs. It seemed like every time they needed a big play in that Pittsburgh game, which wasn't that often because they were ahead by a decent amount toward the end there, but it seemed like he was the one catching the big downfield plays. So I think they can use Diggs a little bit more of a decoy, knowing that the great Kansas City cornerbacks that they have are going to shut him down and try to run the pass offense through Kincaid a little bit and get his number up. It probably shouldn't be anywhere near a Travis Kelce number, just knowing his history, but he might look a little bit like Travis Kelce in this game by the time we get to the end.
That's a good look because of how strong the Chiefs are outside. Mike, what about you? Any props that you're looking at right now?
Always looking at Patrick Mahomes rushing whenever you get to a situation like this. Always speculate that he wants to run a little more when the guy on the other side is doing it, seeing Josh Allen. But he frankly has to sometimes with the weapons he's got out there. So I love when he gets to this point in the season and he's healthy because he can take off and run. Look at the rushing yards. Look at the attempts. It really comes down to, do you think the Chiefs have a legitimate shot of winning this game? If you do, I think you have to love the over 4.5 rushing attempts for Patrick Mahomes. Whoever wins this game is extremely likely to at least get the one kneel down, maybe 2 or 3. I would be stunned, win or lose, if Patrick Mahomes has less than 5 rushing attempts in this game.